take chances. I think I didn't start doing that till probably about 15 years ago, really getting outside of my comfort zone. You just have to raise your hand and say, hey, I'll try that, or, give me the opportunity, and certainly not be afraid to fail, because
I'm so used to being just that top performer that I'm like, well, let me just do it because I can do it easier. But when you have a team, if you empower other people and you trust them to do it, then you're able to work on the bigger picture while they're working on the small pieces of the picture that go together to the big picture. And, if everyone's in their right place, using their right skill set and empowered and trusted to do that, that's how you build a successful team. And it's hard,
For me is I like to do stuff. I mean, that's part of my challenge sometimes is I have to hold myself back because I know I'm pretty sure I can solve most problems on my own, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do that, everything else. And honestly, I'm often surprised that the team often comes up with a solution I didn't think of. It's better than what I thought of because, there's a dozen brains working on it versus, my one brain.
Yeah, for sure. And so when you started with Ortho NY, I know that you've been in healthcare leadership and operations for a long time, but what drew you to orthopedics specifically?
I think really more just to being in the provider space. I think because, my last job, I worked for an insurance company. We don't directly serve patients in that. I mean, we support them obviously with insurance and things like that. But, working in a provider practice, I mean, our day-to-day job is serving people. I mean, that's the most important thing. And, it's amazing to see that patients come back every day. They see our providers, they go off, are a little bit better off by seeing our providers. But it's a mission, right? Like we're serving people as a mission. And in the provider space, it's a fiduciary responsibility, right? It's a very sacred thing, that bond between a provider and a patient. And so, being part of that, I think is pretty amazing. I wish I had been in this space a little bit longer, but, my plan is to hopefully spend the rest of my career, maybe another 7 or 8 years here and, be able to serve patients. I mean, we've served hundreds of thousands of patients every year. It's incredibly, satisfaction. Even though I don't physically work with patients, it's very satisfying.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the Healthy Careers podcast. In 2024, we reached over 32,000 listeners and ranked in the top 15% of all podcasts. We're proud to have SharePro Health as a sponsor and are currently looking for 2 more partners in 2025. If you're looking to connect with healthcare leaders, providers, and innovators, we'd love to spread the word about your service, product, or business. Reach out to me, Maddie, for more details. That's why I got back into healthcare, because I was in the tech side and I found that, I could hire a software engineer that was creating code and doing stuff that was cool, but it wasn't life-saving, right? It was kind of extra, right?
Yeah.
That'd be cool to have. Whereas now I hire an orthopedic surgeon somewhere and they're truly changing people's lives. And even though I'm not at the forefront of it, I still allowed them to be in that position to help those patients. And it is rewarding. I think healthcare has its nuances, and there's certainly a plethora of issues right now when it comes to everything that people are dealing with, not only operationally, but just, I think, ethically. But at the end of the day, the heart of it is that patient-provider relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about being in administration is we enable that. It takes 30 people, roughly to be able to have a provider see that patient. There's people that do ordering of durable goods. There's people that clean our place. There's physical therapists. There's all of these people that surround our provider as like a care team. So we enable all of that to happen. I mean, there's no such thing as a provider doing a patient visit on their own.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore outside of maybe a solo practitioner. There's a whole team of people that support that provider.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like we were talking about in private practice, you've got to build up a name for yourself. And there's probably marketing behind that when it comes to your community involvement and becoming a trusted doctor, because long gone are the days, especially now with technology, to where people just say, oh, well, that's the one hip and knee guy in town that you go to, right?
Yeah.
It's, there might be 10, and who do you go to? Who's the best? And they're going to look it up on health grades, and they're going to see if they're involved in the community. And, oh, we're going to this doctor because he sponsored our kids' Little League team, or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. Providers. I mean, we have athletic trainers that support schools in the area. Got doctors that do pain management. We've got, we're obviously orthopedic surgeons. We have physical therapists. We have case managers. We have the whole spectrum of care. So it's amazing that we can support, this community is roughly 200,000 people, and, we're able to support that very well. Given a lot of the challenges, we're still able to support our community.
Yeah. And I ask everyone this same question at the end of the podcast because I think it's telling. Everyone comes from different backgrounds and has had, different experiences. So if you could go back to the beginning of your career and ask yourself, or I guess give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be, knowing what you know now?
I would say take chances. I think I didn't start doing that till probably about 15 years ago, really getting outside of my comfort zone. A lot of that was inspired by the military because honestly, you can do almost anything in the world in the military that's possible. I think you just have to raise your hand and say, hey, I'll try that, or, give me the opportunity. For example, I'm a healthcare administrator and a planner, but I got to work rotary wing operations for some missions that we were doing up in Alaska. So I learned how to load helicopters, how much square footage you have and how far you can travel on your fuel and like things like that. It was really outside of what my normal job is as a health administrator, but they needed somebody to do that. And I raised my hand. And so I got to do that. And then after I learned how to do it, I did it multiple times. And then I taught somebody else and he did that. He taught other people. And so that's been amazing. But I think you got to be just willing to raise your hand and try, and certainly not be afraid to fail, because you definitely are always going to fail at something that's outside of your expertise. But you learn from it. And then you put that tool in your toolbox and you can either use it or you can teach it to somebody else. And so I wish I had done that earlier in my career. I sort of, the first 15 years or so, I kind of did very similar jobs because I was very comfortable.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also telling. There's a quote, I think, from Thomas Edison when he was inventing the light bulb about he didn't fail. He found, 1,000 ways that didn't work that allowed him to find the way that did.